This is the Chassidic Story Project with Barak Hullman, podcasting from Jerusalem, Israel. This podcast is sponsored by listeners just like you. To become a supporter of this podcast, please go to HasidicStory.com, HASIDIC story.com. You'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know. The Maggid of Mezrich, who became the successor to the Heilige Baal Shem Tov, wasn't always a Chassid. He had heard stories about the Baal Shem Tov, but was very suspicious of the things he heard. That the Baal Shem Tov was able to see things that normal people couldn't see, and that he was able to perform miracles. The Maggid was very suspicious of the Baal Shem Tov. So he decided to come one Shabbos, and at the Friday night meal, as everybody is washing their hands, people warn the Maggid. They say to him, everybody falls asleep the first time they come to the Heilige Baal Shem Tov on Friday night. And the Maggid thinks to himself, I'm not going to fall asleep. I had a very good nap this afternoon. There's no reason for me to fall asleep. And everyone washes their hands. They sit down to eat the bread on Friday night after Kiddush. And sure enough, the Maggid falls asleep. As soon as he falls asleep, he sees there's a long, arched hallway. And at the end of the hallway, there's a light. So he starts walking along the hallway. And as he gets closer, he sees that there's an angel at the end, dressed in white. The Maggid walks to the end of the hallway, and then it opens up into a very large, vaulted ceiling with a large room. And the Maggid is standing at one end of the room, and at the other end, he sees this very special holy Jew dressed in white. And standing next to him, who does he see? None other than the Baal Shem Tov, talking with this Jew dressed in white, who looks like an angel. And the Maggid, because the ceiling is vaulted and arched, he's able to hear every word that's spoken on the other side of the room. He hears that the Baal Shem Tov and this holy Jew are discussing the Kabbalistic meaning behind washing the hands before eating bread. He listens, he hears the conversation ends, and then just like that, he's pulled backwards out of the hallway, and when he reaches the end of the hallway, he wakes up, opens his eyes, and he sees that the meal is over and everybody had already left the room. On Shabbos day, at the second meal, he slept very well at night, but he fell asleep again. And again he had a similar dream. The Baal Shem Tov and this Jew discussing the Kabbalistic meaning behind washing the hands. And when he woke up, the meal was over and everyone had left. So he made sure for the third meal not only to take a good nap, but a strong cup of coffee before he came, because he wasn't going to fall asleep this time. And everybody washed their hands, and the Heilige Baal Shem Tov begins talking about the Kabbalistic meaning behind the washing of the hands. And the Maggid, for the first time, doesn't fall asleep. Baal Shem Tov, he realizes, is talking about the same exact topic that he was talking about in the Maggid's dream. And one of the Chassidim, who was a great scholar, he says to the Heilige Baal Shem Tov, Rebbe, with all due respect, I think that you misunderstood the Kabbalistic meaning behind washing the hands. The Baal Shem Tov argues with him a little bit, and this Chassid, who's a great scholar, argues back with the Baal Shem Tov. And then at some point, the Baal Shem Tov says, well, that might be your opinion, but the Heilige Ari, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Shlomo Luria Ashkenazi, commonly known as Hari, was one of the greatest Jewish mystics that ever lived. He lived in Tzfat and died in 1572. And that was more than 100 years before the Baal Shem Tov was even born. This conversation that they were having was probably around 150 years after the Ari had passed away. And the Baal Shem Tov says to this Chassid, sorry, but the Ari disagrees with you. And the Chassid said, well, I don't think that you know what the Ari really thought. I mean, we have the Ari's writings, and you and I disagree on the meaning. The Baal Shem Tov says, no, I'm very confident that I know exactly what the Ari had to say. And this Chassid says, no, Rebbe, how do you know that that's what the Ari said? And the Baal Shem Tov says, because I asked the Ari myself. And if you don't believe me, just ask Dov Ber, who was the Maggid of Mezrich. Just ask Dov Ber over there. He saw me talking with the Ari when he fell asleep at the Friday night meal and at the Shabbos day meal. And he's not even a Chassid. So if you don't believe me, ask him. And when the Maggid heard that the Baal Shem Tov was speaking with the Ari, and not only that, but he merited to see it all When he fell asleep 2 times at the meal of the Baal Shem Tov, he decided that this truly was a great tzaddik who could see things that normal people couldn't see and could probably do miracles as well. And Dov Ber, who eventually became the successor of the Baal Shem Tov and was then called the Maggid of Mezrich, decided that he was going to stay by the Heilige Baal Shem Tov and learn all he could from this great Rebbe. To become a supporter of this podcast, please go to HasidicStory.com, HASIDIC story.com.